Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Mike. It is a bank holiday Monday today. I think it's the 16th of June, 2025. I hope you are all doing incredibly well. This is a live show. We are not robotic. We are not AI. We are physically in the room with you now, he said, looking over his shoulder. Now, there's an awful lot of things going to go on today. First of all, it's a bank holiday, so I'm not expecting many people in chat. So if you are here, good morning to you. Secondly, there is a problem with YouTube. I'm not too sure why or where there is a problem with YouTube, but it doesn't load for me here. So if you're watching on YouTube, congratulations. I don't believe many of you are. There were cloud problems last week. Thursday, I think it was last week. So I don't know if that's the problem now, but I can't get onto YouTube on anything except via the streaming platform. So that's number two. However, we will be here whether there are 2 of you or 200 of you. So good morning to Danny, to Tariq. Hidden is in chat. Alpha is here and Manjeet is here. At least there are a few of you out here. I know it's not a bank holiday everywhere in the world. I think it's the King's birthday. I think that's what we're celebrating. And I'm not sure which countries are celebrating it or not. But you know what? I think any day where you have it off is a day to celebrate. So if you celebrate King's birthday, if you don't because it's not part of your country, fine. I'm not too sure. As I said, I'm not too sure if it's in America. I'm not too sure where it's in the UK or whatever. But there we go. Anyway, we've got a lot to get through. Mondays are, of course, chart day. We look at the charts. We look at the DXY. We look at the what do you call it? The total market caps and total market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. We're going to have a look at Market Watch because this is an important week, the most important week in the history of Bitcoin, part 76. So we've got the charts to go through. We're also going to be looking at some of the key levels that Bitcoin got rejected off. Now, most of you won't remember, but I asked you a trick question on Friday. Are we going to go to 103 or are we going to go to 107,000? And 60% of you said 103,000. And who was right and who was wrong? Recency bias always makes people think we're going to go down or up. We had the shock. It's gone. Now, there may well be another shock. There may well be another shock in the next 48, 72 hours. But there might also be a ceasefire. There may also be an end to the hostilities. Okay? The shock is worse than the aftermath in the markets anyway. So anyway, we're going to look at the Bitcoin rejection that we've now broken through. We're going to look at Charles talking about XRP. We're going to look at FTX dumping on the market still 2.5 years later. We're going to look at BuyReal. What is that? We're going to look at an iPhone moment. Has there been an iPhone moment for stablecoins? And then we're going to look at Meme Slam. This is some of the OGs basically telling you to avoid the meme hype. And I made an OG video 3 weeks ago, which if you've watched, you will know that was something I was warning you about 3 weeks ago. So it's nice to see other people talk about things that I talk about. And there are lots of things that go on in the world that I can comment on that I don't comment on because we're a crypto channel. We're not here to talk to you about global conflict and all of these kinds of things. Good morning, Charles. Good morning, Mags. I hope you are well. And also on the screen in front of you, right next to me, right there, Wolfswap Quiz Night is on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central European Time, which is 5 p.m. UTC. It's a lot later where some of you are. I know Kishan Manjeet, it's going to be about 11 o'clock at night, something like that. It's really late, I know. For Americans, though, it's probably 1 in the afternoon, midday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, depending on where you are, which coast you are. Again, we had a really good Maple Finance quiz last week, but nobody turns up. The lethargy in crypto at this moment in time is the worst we have seen it. The worst. X volume is nowhere. YouTube volume is nowhere. There is just nobody interested in crypto right now. And we are at $107,000. I mean, when retail and if retail come back, then we are going to go on to way bigger and way better things. But let's have a look at the markets then before we go too far down the rabbit hole on this lovely Monday. The reason I like it is it's so quiet outside on a bank holiday weekend. There was nobody out and about yesterday. We went out. I think it was the hottest day of the year here. I think it was nearly 30 degrees yesterday. It didn't feel it. It was lovely. And I think today, equally nice. Tomorrow, the rat race is back on. People are back in the office. Anyway, Bitcoin coming in, 107,000. Ethereum back over $2,600. XRP, again, I don't tell you these prices because I've plucked them out of thin air. 220, 250, 270. They are key numbers for XRP. The same way 107,000 was key for Bitcoin. I don't just make them up. They're key levels. BNB 656. Again, BNB is just one of those coins. It doesn't really... It goes down a little, it goes up a little, and it just wanders off on its own little merry way, having a great time. Solana 156. That's had a really good pump in the last 24 hours. I'm not saying that the XRP and Solana ETF news is going to come out today or tomorrow, but I think in the next week or two, you're going to hear about the Solana ETF and you're going to get a start date. Maybe you'll get a 3-month countdown. Maybe you'll get a 2-week countdown, but that's going to start. And I believe that we're going to go back over $200 on Solana when that is announced. We're not going to go to $1,000 like everybody keeps telling you because it's too much of a pump. We might go up, certainly, but we're not going to go up in a day. Good morning, Bullish Bull. Other coins that are up. Cardano is at 65 cents. Again, 80 cents is the next target for Cardano. 60 cents is the next target for Cardano if we have a retracement. They're the kind of key figures for Cardano. The same way that 220, 250, 270, they're the key targets for XRP. For Bitcoin, of course, we're at 107. Be great to get back to 110, but if we come down, then 105, 104. They're the kind of levels we'd come down to. So it's a nice range that we're in for Bitcoin. Now, there's a lot of gainers and losers. SPX, which Brogan has been streaming about. Now, I believe he's streaming again today. He streams Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. I spoke about this in an OG video yesterday. And he is going to be mainly talking about Solana coins. Not meme coins as such, but Solana coins. And one of his number one picks is SPX 6900. And that coin, I obviously haven't been talking about it because lots of other people talk about it, but he's picked that coin and he gave you some really good low targets to get in. I think had you been following the Oracle, you'd be up about 50% now. He also has picked KMNO, which is Camino Finance. That's also been on a bit of a rip. I'm not sure if that's in the top there. And of course, he's been talking about COM, which has found a bottom and has moved up an awful lot in the last 72 hours. So Jito is up. Hyper is up $44. How much longer can this coin go up? There's only so many buybacks it can do. I do not think this coin is going to go into the top 10. It's still 50% away from that. So that would give you a $66 Hyperliquid. I mean, by all means, have a look at that coin, but I think it's going to retrace. And then, maybe, yes, you buy into it. Casper is up, Sky is up, Solana, ASI back at 72 cents, Virtuals is back at $2, that's had a good run. Radium, now Radium was at $5 not so long ago. It's come down massively. I think it's come down massively simply because of the added competition now of Pump.Fun. But Radium is a solid coin. I saw somebody talking the other day on X about TradFi coming to crypto. and what TradFi look for. And TradFi stands for traditional finance, obviously. But what TradFi are interested in is they're interested in this incredible word called revenue. And then the second word they're interested in is profit. And what they do is they look at revenue and they look at profit and they divide one by the other and they work out profit earnings ratio. There's obviously a lot more involved than that, but just as a rule of thumb, how much money does it make? How much does it cost to make that money? Okay. Now, we've been talking about this for 2 years. We've been talking about projects that make money. Jupiter absolutely makes bags and bags and bags of cash. Binance, bags of cash. Gate.io, bags of cash. Coinbase, bags of cash. Other exchanges, they all make big bags of cash, especially tier 1 exchanges. DEXs, big bags of cash. We're going to talk about one in a bit, which is called BuyReal. They all make money. The projects that you are invested in, do they make money? I know a lot of you hold Aero, and I think Aero is also up today massively. I think I saw Aero in the top gainers today. I could be mistaken, but I'm sure it's up. There we go. Aero. Again, 80 cents for Aero. Very good price, but it's already up 59%. An announcement was made, which I think I didn't cover, and I'm not going to cover again, which is that Shopify have integrated USDC. So you can buy products through Shopify without using a credit card. And the chain behind that, as far as I'm aware, is Base. Aero Finance is the top DEX on Base. So Base is going to pump. Base doesn't have its own coin. It's not like Solana. So if Base doesn't have its own coin, what people will do is they will buy the biggest projects on that chain and use them as a way of tapping into the success of Base. The other thing that's on Base is Brett. So if you're going to look at Base, go and have a look at what's there now. But again, there's lots of other news that we don't include in the charts because we do not have all the time in the world, as the song goes. I think I've just seen a few more people pop into chat. Remember, if you're new here, say hello, we do not bite. KB is here. Good morning to you, sir. I hope you are well. Now let's move on. Let's get into some X-Files. Remember, it's a Monday. We've got a lot to get through. We're going to whiz through some of these things, but it is a bank holiday as well, so I'm not going to be making tons of videos today. I did make 2 videos yesterday. I'm probably not going to make any today. I might make one. Who knows? Crypto exchanges have commissions that would make a 1970s stockbroker blush. No wonder ETFs are growing like wildfire. They blow this out of the water. Now, we're not going to talk about the exchange it's on, but we're going to talk about the spread. Now, there is a retail exchange and there is Binance, and there are real exchanges out there, and some have 2. They have a retail exchange and then a proper exchange. And what you need to do, let's say you want to stack your Bitcoin, use Binance. Absolutely, use Binance. But if you've got other exchanges, and let's say you are on Coinbase, this price here, this is what's called the spread. So if the price of Bitcoin is $107,000 today, you could very well be buying it for $109,000 on another exchange. And when you go to sell it, you might sell it at $105,000. And that difference in price is the spread. And they do that because they don't charge you fees. So their fee is wrapped into the price. And you'll notice this if you go to change USDC to USDT. A lot of exchanges will not give you 1 for 1. And you might get 98 cents for the dollar. That 2% is how they make their money. So before, when I was saying, look at what makes money. Now, how do you tap into Binance? You hold BNB. That's how you tap into Binance. How do you tap into other exchanges? You buy their exchange tokens. That's how you tap in. But make sure you do it with exchanges that have a buyback and burn or a buyback mechanism where they take a percentage of their profits and buy back in. Now, of course, I'm going to recommend using Binance to buy your Bitcoin. because most of you watching are retail, most of you, I don't want to suggest sending your money to hot wallets to buy Bitcoin on a DEX and then sending it back. I don't want to do that. So buy it on Bitcoin, buy it on Binance. That's my very simple recommendation. And if you are on another exchange, and I know some of you are, go and buy your Bitcoin from the actual exchange itself. Don't buy it through the app. The app is where they make their spread. And they make hundreds of millions of dollars a month. Let's just put that out there. And where do they make that money from? They don't make it from the exchange. They make it from you. Now, we're not going to go through this step by step because this is incredibly long. Okay? But if I wanted to make a news video, a recap video, I would look at Santiment. They've clearly got an AI bot that's gone out there and condensed all of the useful information into one article. And this is, I think, the future. Now, the problem with AI at the minute is it's a little bit wrong, but on the whole, if you wanted to get a 5-minute recap of what's going on in crypto, Santiment would do great. I mean, it's got talking about Cardano and $100 million worth that Charles wants to buy and sell and buy Bitcoin and make rewards off that. Huma, you've got XMR, which is obviously the Monero news, talking about how they can start to use Monero. You've got Ethereum, which we're going to talk about again in a minute. You've got news about Chainlink, Aave, SushiSwap, some stuff that we don't talk about on here. Quant, again, another project that we really, really love, but price action of tokens and projects don't necessarily marry up. That's something that I want to try and stress to everybody watching. If we talk about dupe, the price of the token should not be 45 cents because they make a bag load of cash. But it is 45 cents, which is below where I think it should be. If you look at Hyperliquid at $44, I think it's above where it should be. So the project should always be assessed outside of the token price. You have hyped up token prices and subdued token prices. It's just the way it is. Solana deep in. Helium hits all-time high, 1.1 million daily users, more than most chains have real users. Now, again, just because I don't like a project doesn't mean I'm not going to include it in the news. I don't like Helium. I think this is too big a job that they're trying to pull off, which is basically to create a mesh around the world for mobile telephony and internet connectivity. I think it's too big a job. But think of it this way. What's 1.1 million people spread around the world? It's not a lot, really, is it? How much bigger are they going to have to grow? Are they ever going to become a unicorn? Are they going to be bought out by somebody? Are they going to run out of steam? But hats off, 1.1 million people is very, very decent. Hello, Simon. Bitcoin is on the rise. It is indeed. On Binance, there is a staking SOL to BSOL, and you get share of Layer tokens. Do you think it's going to be a good token? Layer, I mean. What I would do, Tariq, I've spent an awful long time looking at this. Bitcoin staking on exchanges is becoming a massive thing. Binance launched the Solve BTC 2 weeks ago. You can get GT BTC today, which is another exchange. We're not going to talk about that. And they're both offering 2 to 3%. I don't think the risk metric, if it's fully backed 1-to-1, is that bad. So the ones that we're talking about, they are backed. Now, what I would do, and this is my advice, not to be taken as financial advice. If I am staking Bitcoin and earning any other token, I am selling that token every day or every week back to Bitcoin. That's what I'm doing. That's all I would do. Now, I don't care how well another token does, because you have to understand there may be 100,000 people out there doing the same thing that you're doing, and they're going to be doing what I'm suggesting. I think Bitcoin yield is a massive way for you to earn on your Bitcoin. Now, it earns it through separate tokens because Bitcoin is proof of work, not proof of stake. So it earns it through the likes of Core, earns it through the likes of Solve, earns it through the likes of, what else is out there? Lombard, LBTC, is also offering it. And they all offer about the same thing, 2-3%. I don't think that's too bad. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to pick something too small. So when Binance offer this, or another exchange offers this, and it's backed one-to-one and it's fully secure, then it's safe to earn that yield. But sell whatever you get, because it's a little bit like the tap to earn games, in my opinion. You're earning a token that has no intrinsic value. Core is different. Core, you have to stake your core tokens on the core network to earn the Bitcoin yield. And they've just changed their methodology, so you have to stake more. So they're not all the same, but the premise is whatever you earn off Bitcoin yield, you should sell back into Bitcoin. That is my rule of thumb. And yes, Layer might go on to be a massive success, but I don't care about that. I know Bitcoin is going to be a success. What I want is 3% yield on my Bitcoin that I can sell back into Bitcoin. That's all I care about. And I want to do it in a way where my funds are fully backed and backed by an exchange. This is not something you do on a DEX. It's not something you do through Camino Finance, in my opinion, because your Bitcoin is your Bitcoin. So that's what I would do with you. Where can we get Satoshi token? I've no idea. I don't know what Satoshi token is. What do you think of the potential most gains? Right. What I would say is the most gains for 2025, I'd say real world asset tokens. And the reason I would say them is that's the narrative. You're being told that meme coins are the narrative. And who are you being told meme coins are the narrative by? The meme coin holders. You're being told that all of these meme coins are going to go to the moon and you're going to be very, very rich. I keep referring back to look at projects that make money. Look at projects that make revenue and turnover and profit. They are going to make money. When real money comes to crypto, when real big boy pants wearing men and women in their lovely suits and blouses come to crypto, are they going to buy your bag of bonky new SHIB Doge coins? No, they're not. They're going to buy projects they understand. Real world asset projects, deep in projects like Chainlink, which are Oracle based, fractionalized fees. Fractions of fees. They're going to be looking at the AG layer as well, which is another thing that hasn't really taken off yet, but I think will. So I think they're going to look at where real money is made. Where is the real value in crypto? If Warren Buffett came to crypto today and we said to Warren Buffett, right, Warren, pick me 10 projects that will make money, what do you think Warren Buffett would buy? Personally, I think he would buy exchange tokens. Or not exchange tokens, but coins associated with DEXs and centralized exchanges. I think he would look at real world asset tokens. I think he'd look at projects that make pounds, shillings and pence. That's where I think he would look. So I would look at anything to do with deep in, anything to do with real world assets, but I'd be careful as well, because Ondo, where does Ondo make its money from? Ondo doesn't have a connection between its token and its project at the minute. It's just a DAO governance token. So it doesn't really make any money. There's no buyback mechanism on Ondo. Look at Pendle, for example. Makes money. You can sell your future yield through Pendle. It's really good, but it's a very complex project to look at. Look at that. Look at projects that make money out of Bitcoin. That's what I would do. And if you're going to buy stocks or anything like that, look at maybe the miners. They're going to do really, really well. And again, Warren Buffett would look at miners. So anything that involves making real cash, I think that's where you should be looking. And not just for the rest of the year. I would look at it for the next 4 years, next 4 or 5 years. And, you know, yes, you can look at Sui. Maybe Hyperliquid falls back to $20. You can pick it up and it'll run to $60, $80, fine. Chainlink is cheap, $15. So I'd look at those projects. And of course, I'd look at Gains by Monkey Muscle. Why wouldn't you look at Gains by Monkey Muscle? By the way, while we're here, Monkey Muscle, who are in chat, we've been giving away their NFTs for months. Not giving them away because we don't like them, but we bought them. Pre-sale, I think they were 50 crow, something like that. We've been giving them away. Floor prices are now about 90. They do a poker night every Sunday, so get involved with that. But also you can now stake them and earn crow and earn gains. There's a plug. And that's a fair plug because I think the staking was a really nice surprise. Good morning, Ben. I hope you are doing well. Anyway, we've gone off on an absolute tangent, which I don't mind. At one point in the future, if we ever get big enough, I would love to do a Q&A with everybody in chat. But I just don't think we have enough people. And what happens, I said this to the Oracle the other day, we start the stream, everybody stops talking. Now, I could be just giving you so much beautiful information you don't want to interrupt me. That is true. But I also think I could be comatosing you. So I'm happy to do an AMA. I'd love to do an AMA, but I just don't. I think we'd need maybe 50, 60 people in chat rather than, sometimes what do we get, 40 people in chat. I just think maybe there's a magic number we need to get there, and today I'm not expecting anybody in chat because it's a bank holiday and YouTube is having problems. Now, Brazil now charges 17.5% flat tax on all your crypto gains, ending the exemption for small investors. Now, what I would love to see, remember we've got our little mantra here, haven't we? Adoption, regulation and interoperability. They are the three tenets we think crypto will be a success on. There are tenets. We made them up. But of course, that's the direction we're going in. Adoption and regulation comes by stuff like this. You might not like it. But put it this way. Let's say you did buy a Monkey Muscle NFT for 50 Crow and you sold it for 100 Crow. And let's say the price of Crow hasn't changed, so it's still 10 cents, for example. You would have to pay 17.5 Crow on that profit. Now, what does that do? It legitimizes crypto. That's the key. It's now legitimate. Brazil, every other country, what do they care about? Do they care about protecting the investor? Do they care about rug pulls? What do they care about? They care about tax dollars. That is what they care about. In the past, crypto was a $500, $600 billion industry. What does that mean to a country? A few $100 million, if that, if it's a big country. What are we now? Are we at 3 trillion, 2 trillion, 3? I think we're at 3 trillion, aren't we? A $3 trillion business. Bitcoin is now the 5th biggest asset in the world. Now they care because now they want their tax. That is what they care about, tax. And I don't care what anybody says. You find me an argument that it isn't for tax because that is all they care about. And if the Brazilian government can make $100 million, $200 million a year in tax out of crypto, that is an awful lot of money for some countries. Don't forget that. Right, let's move on. We haven't even got to the charts. Something tells me we are not going to make it to the end of this show. Tariq, I kind of pointed Tariq in the direction of how to buy a Monkey Muscle NFT. I think the key is, with any NFT, and this is not saying anything else, when you buy an NFT project, you genuinely buy it for the culture, okay? And you've heard that term from the degens. But what I mean by that is, if you join, before you buy any NFT, join the Discord channel. If it's full of idiots and people posting the worst memes in the world, why are you buying that NFT? You don't. If you happen to like playing poker and you find a poker NFT project which has a private Discord channel where you can go and play poker against semi-decent poker players and you can get into a poker community, think of it as a VIP membership card. So it doesn't matter if it costs you $10 or $100. If you love poker, it's your VIP ticket. So don't ever try and think you're going to make money out of it. Maybe you will. But the point of the matter is, it's like a membership scheme. The same with football. There are quite a few different football NFT projects out there. If you happen to like football, go and buy one and go and get involved. Maybe they have their own different, sweepstakes or pools for the World Club Championship, whatever it might be. Think of it as an access pass to that community. And you support that community by buying your access pass. The same way you pay a fee to join a snooker hall or a gym membership. What do you expect from a gym membership? You expect to get buff. like Tariq in chat. But don't think of it as a way, I'm going to buy this NFT for $10 and it's going to be worth $10,000. It doesn't work like that. It hasn't worked like that for about 6 years. Right then. Right, let's move on. I'm going to get distracted if I keep looking at chat. Right then. Solana approval odds, 92% on Polymarket. Again, not if, but when. I still think this is going to be September, October. We are already at the end, or we're nearly at the end of June, okay? I said that this would go live before the end of the bull run. And I said there is a good chance this could suppress the Solana price in the bull run. I made videos about it. Why do I say these horrible, nasty, bearish things? Because what happened to Bitcoin, what happened to Ethereum after their ETF went live, the price went down. Now, it could very well be buy the rumor, sell the news. Yes, it could. But it could also be this. Grayscale dumped Bitcoin. Grayscale dumped Ethereum. What do you think Grayscale is going to do with Solana? It's going to dump Solana. So maybe we run to $300, $400, $500, and then maybe we get suppressed. Maybe we don't see this until we've hit all-time highs. Maybe this comes out after all-time highs and we get an extra push. Who knows? But I think this is going to be a sell the news event simply because of what happened. You know, whatever it is, once bitten, twice shy. Well, in this instance, it's once bitten, twice bitten, third time is a charm. Don't think that this is going to go live and we're going to rip through the roof. I don't think that's going to happen. And the same thing with XRP. I think XRP could easily go to $3 or $4, and then, well, maybe $4 or $5, and then the XRP price is suppressed by Grayscale. It's like Grayscale is like a psyop. It's just there to absolutely suppress us. Now then, this is the most important week in crypto ever. Episode 76. Tuesday. We have all of these wonderful bits of information. We've already had the news we want. Wednesday. This is it. This is the big one. Now, anyone that told you we're having a rate cut, you need to unsubscribe from. Okay, I've asked in chat, by the way. Let's see how many of you have said yes and no, because that's a bit of an indicator to me. Let's have a look. I have to... 54, it's very close. 54% have said no rate cut. 46% have said rate cut. Now, Polymarket has said there's a 96% chance of a rate cut. Now, all of those things are great. But as far as I can see, Chairman Powell has said that there will be no rate cut. As far as I'm aware, everybody has said that there will be no rate cut. So if the good guys are saying no rate cut, I don't see how we are going to get one. So I am going along the premise that there is no rate cut on Wednesday. Now, the two things happen. There is the decision, but this is more important than the decision, and that is, what is Powell's tone on Wednesday? If he comes out and he says, we're going to keep rates this high for as long as possible, maybe till September, October, that's hawkish. That's really not good for us. We might see us come down 103, 104 again. If he comes out and says, hey bros, degens, Rizzers out there, let's slap this one, a big fat dookie. We're going to start slashing in July. Let's get the party on. Let's get Bitcoin to 200k. If he says that, which as you can tell is very unlikely, we could obviously go back above $110,000, maybe 100, maybe we break all-time highs. I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting him to come out and be the boring... He's the guy that buys you a Lego set for Christmas when you wanted a PlayStation 12. He's the borer. And I'm expecting a nothing burger on Wednesday. No rate cut, and we're just going to keep an eye on the markets. We're just going to keep an eye on them. We're going to see how they're going to go, and we're going to take it month by month. That's what I'm expecting him to say. That's what's going to happen, in my opinion. Why do I say these things? Again, because I don't like listening to random people on X that can't read charts. If the professionals are saying no rate cut and the gamblers are saying rate cut, who do you trust? Maybe the gamblers win this time, but I never back against the house. Never bet against the Fed. Let's move on then. This is the DXY. Always takes a long time to load these charts these days. I think TradingView updated itself a while ago. Now, I have, of course, on here, drawn my beautiful little pink line. Now, we're following our pink line, okay? Now, we did this last week, which would have been maybe here. And my pink line takes us down here and then starts to move us to the upside. Now, this was tariffs. This is not tariffs. This is potentially due to other macro events that I've got to be very careful that we talk about on here. Also, we've had conflict, which we can't really talk about on here. But there are green shoots. There are green shoots. The US-China trade agreements, the conversations that took place in London, they, I think, were pretty good. The only thing they couldn't agree on, as far as I'm aware, was something to do with defense and importing Chinese goods to be used in American defense. I think that was the big thing that they were looking at. But for me, I think we're going to get a rebound. I think this line is going to hold. And I think we're going to start to move back up. So that's the DXY, the strength of the dollar. Traditionally, if we go back, we have been lower than this. So yes, of course, could be completely wrong. We could come lower. This was, I imagine, COVID, which I think is a word we can now say these days. And we came lower during COVID. Are the times we're in now as bad as COVID? I think not. So I don't think we're going to come that low. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to bounce and go a lot higher. Now, talking about going a lot higher, this is the runaway train. And this has no end in sight. This is the crusher of dreams. This is the Thanos of the crypto universe. This is the destroyer of bags, the crusher of portfolios. This is what's keeping Tariq's Litecoin bag light. And that is, of course, Bitcoin dominance, which again, let me wait for this to load. Did I delete everything off here? Maybe I did. Maybe I did. Maybe I gave up drawing the same lines every single week. Okay. This is showing no end. I mean, look at that. Where was that? That was, yeah. So, when was this? This is, I think, when we started streaming. I think we chose June 2022 to start our channel. So what's that? That's 3 years ago, actually. I think June the 22nd is when we started. So we are 4 days away from our third birthday. What do you normally get for a third birthday? Tonka toys. Maybe I'll get myself a play kitchen. Now then, 64.6%. I said top would be what? Did I say top would be 63%, 64%, something like that I said. I mean, where do we stop? Where do we stop? I mean, we have to stop. You can't get more than 100%. And you've got stable coins right now, so clearly it can't go to 100. Is it going to go to 70%? Is it going to go to 65, 66 and come down again? I mean, if you go back in history, we can go a lot higher. We can go a lot higher. I mean, a lot of people, I imagine, never expected Bitcoin dominance to get to 70%. We're at 64.5%. It's not a big move. If Bitcoin went to, what, 125,000 tomorrow and nothing else in the market moved, what would that give us? Maybe another 4 or 5% on Bitcoin dominance. That would certainly push us 70%. Maybe we go to 70% and maybe we break down then. But Bitcoin dominance is not stopping. There is no breakdown. Your alts are not going to go up until Bitcoin has a breather. There is no sign that Bitcoin is going to have a breather. We are where we are. As they say, it is what it is. Lioncoin, the Crypto.com Lioncoin. I think it is artificially being made into a success. There's lots of things to say on these streams which I wouldn't put in a video or wouldn't put on X, but I'm here for an honest opinion. I think that Lion is a great project. It's a lot of money spent on it, and they can't allow it to fail. You have the universe that they've built. Can't remember the name of the game now. I've played it. I've looked at it. Main City. So they've got Main City, and you've got the Loaded Lions. And Loaded Lions is, for me, it's the benchmark NFT project. They can't fail. You've then got the token itself. They're not going to allow that token to fail. They're not going to allow it to fail. They trade the token themselves, and they are going to keep that token doing well. And they're going to use that as an example of how successful they can be. And they will throw money at that project to make it a success. And I am not saying it's going to go to 20 billion, but I certainly don't think it's going to go to 200 million. There's reputational risk. If they can't get their own token off the ground and be a success, what hope has anybody else got? Right, this is the total market cap of crypto. We've kind of followed this lovely little line. We've bounced off this kind of support level here, which is 3.18. I said we needed to get to 3.64. We've come up and come down, and now we're coming up again. We're not a million miles away. We're 10% away from breaking all-time highs for the total market cap, which is 3.64. In this bull run, I think I said a long time ago, 6 to 10 billion is the target. Now, 6 to 10 billion from here is 100%. But bear in mind, we've not had an alt season yet. So this is primarily made up of Bitcoin. 2 trillion of this is Bitcoin. No alt season, and we'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. You can see here, by the way, just as a recap, we're bouncing off this line. We're starting to move back up again. This is our bull market support band, which is coming in at 3 trillion, which is a nice round number. So we're above the bull market support band. We're holding. We're doing really well. Now, if you take Bitcoin and Ethereum out of that, if you go away from Bitcoin and Ethereum and you start to look at the Solanas, the XRPs, the Cardanos, you get a slightly different story. Not a massively different story, but of course, you take Bitcoin out and you're going to have a completely different story anyway. But this is a different kettle of fish. And basically the altcoin market is hanging on. Oops, that was not meant to happen. Let me move it back into range. There we go. We are hanging on to the bull market support band. So we're not looking at going back to all-time highs. We're hanging on. Now, Bitcoin dominance, let's say, as I said, let's say Bitcoin goes to $125,000 tomorrow. It's going to do this again. And we're going to come down here. So your alts, they are a-changing, but they are changing to lower prices at this moment in time because Bitcoin is still not finished. Caught the antelope, it's still eating, and you just got to wait. And there is no time scale and there is no pressure on Bitcoin to give up. It's now got such big investors. Michael Saylor, God knows how much he bought yesterday. You've got Michael Saylor, you've got BlackRock, you've got VanEck, you've got ARK Invest, you've got Metaplanet, you've now got 100 different treasuries buying Bitcoin. When is that going to stop? I don't think it is going to stop. So where do the alts get the fuel from to go up? And, you know, I'm not saying that we don't have fuel to go up. What I'm saying is there's no narrative for them to go up when Bitcoin is grabbing all the headlines. And I produce 7 articles a day. And I can tell you what people talk about because I go through, let's say, 60 articles I look at to make this. And at this moment in time, 40, 50 of those articles are about Bitcoin. And the only time that changes is when somebody talks about something controversial. And then it will be, you know, the usual clickbait. Oh my God, did you see what Charles Hoskinson said about Ethereum? That was a really bad American accent. I will never do that again. But that's the case. It's all about Bitcoin. Everything is about Bitcoin. Crow isn't going to move. What else out there? Chainlink isn't going to move. Nothing's going to move. Bitcoin got rejected at 106. This is a little bit out of date, but the context in which it was written makes sense. There are talks between various different parties to de-escalate. And Putin's got involved. Obviously, Trump's got involved. They want a de-escalation. Got to be very careful what I say. I'm not going to say too much, but it will affect the price. But again, the start of the conflict is what triggers the move down. Everything that happens afterwards is not. Like I said to you the other day, you're walking through an alleyway and somebody jumps out and shouts boo. Your heart will start racing, your adrenaline will flow, and then you carry on walking, and 10 minutes later your heart is still pounding. That's what the markets do. They react in a most of the time a very negative way. Look at the Trump tariffs. Everybody thought that was the end of the bull run, and I sat here and told you it wasn't, because it's a shock to the market. It shocks them. Now we're still seeing a little bit of the damage being repaired. We're back at 107,000. Hopefully we're still at 107,000. And, you know, what are we? $5,000 away from all-time highs. We are $5,000 away from all-time highs on Bitcoin. And we have all of this going on. We've got the tariff wars. We have the conflicts going on. We have really not great economic data coming out from a lot of different parts of the world. And we're $5,000. What's that? 4% below all-time highs. I mean, when have we ever had it so good? When have we ever had it where we're sitting at $107,000 with all of this going on? We've never had it this good, but recency bias will cause you to have a bearish mindset. We are at the precipice of breaking my target for Bitcoin in this bull run, which is 111,600 or something like that. Now, I know we wicked above it, but let's get to 114, 115,000, and then I can relax. Because otherwise, we've got a double top, and we're going to have a summer of me telling you that $95,000 for Bitcoin in the summer is a good price. And I really don't want to do that. So Bitcoin did stop. Now we've broken back above it. I think some of the words coming out of the White House have helped this. I don't want to cover that too much, but suffice to say, the shock of the incident is obviously horrific. By the way, all of these things I talk about from a crypto context. I don't talk about them from a point of view of the physical lives being affected, because that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about crypto. So in respect to crypto, this is a shock which has now been alleviated in some respects. Now, Charles has been talking about XRP. Now, don't forget, Charles doesn't like Brad Garlinghouse. And I imagine Brad Garlinghouse doesn't like Charles. Charles is like an OG crypto, bespeckled, far better beard than I have, far more hair than I have, gentlemen. But I think he's like 29. He looks like 90. But he is talking about Ripple. He's talking about Solana. He's talking about Ethereum. And more importantly, he's talking about Bitcoin. And he wants Cardano to be the central mesh that pulls everything together. He wants to be the one ring that brings everything together. And he has been talking about the rollout of a very exciting sounding XRP package in his Sunday social media post. Glacier Drop is the official name for the midnight multi-chain airdrop. I'm not sold on this airdrop, by the way. I think it's a great idea. I think it'll bring a lot of hype to Cardano, but I think doing such a massive airdrop is just going to result in the price absolutely tanking. Everyone's going to get this airdrop. ADA holders, Solana holders, probably XRP holders now, Bitcoin holders, everyone's getting this airdrop because it's going to be the token that Cardano will use to allow for the interoperability to take place. The airdrop targeted 37 million. Hang on. I don't think it's targeting 37 million blockchains. I think it's targeting 37 million wallets. That would make more sense to me. I can't imagine there's 37 million blockchains out there, but who wrote this? Alex, do your homework. The Night Governance Token and the Dust Privacy Focus Token will be distributed as part of the airdrop event. XRP holders are eligible for the airdrop by holding the tokens in a qualifying wallet. And again, if your funds are on exchanges, don't go crying to CZ or Richard that you didn't get the airdrop. Okay? I am sure Binance will be working with Cardano in some way, shape or form to get you the airdrop. Okay? But don't expect it. If you have a Cardano wallet, can't remember the names of the ones I used to use now. If you've got a Cardano wallet, or if you've got a Trust wallet, I imagine, or a MetaMask wallet, or maybe even a Phantom wallet on Solana, then I imagine you're going to be eligible. Okay? There are going to be lots of ways where you don't earn this token. This is one of those things where what you want and what you get will be two different things. And if you've got, for example, your Solana staked in a certain place, maybe that's not eligible. If you've got Cardano and it's not on the right wallet, you're not going to be eligible. So whatever you get, my advice has always been be grateful. And if you think there's been a genuine mistake, you contact them. But on the whole, they don't make that many mistakes. So XRP is going to get it. This is going to be a big thing for Cardano. I'm not saying it's their last chance saloon by any means, because I think if Charles and Cardano can crack the Bitcoin DeFi conundrum, they are going to be a very, very valuable chain. And that's what we want. We want valuable chains. It really isn't good for crypto to just have Solana and Ethereum. Believe it or not, it's not healthy. You need several chains doing different things for a healthy community. And, you know, don't forget, some chains appear, some chains go, just like exchanges. And talking of exchanges that disappear, FTX, the nemesis of CZ, is now behind bars for a very long time. FTX dumps another $10 million in Solana as the wind-down efforts press on. Again, that's a minor amount of Solana. One thing to bear in mind is that we've still got ghosts from our past. And the majority of those ghosts have now left us. And that's the ghost of FTX. That's the ghost of Luna. That's the ghost of Celsius. It's the ghost of other exchanges that used to exist, other projects that used to exist. And those ghosts are slowly but surely being exercised. The tokens that were stolen, lost, are now being redistributed to their rightful owners. We've seen the airdrops from Celsius this year. We've seen the airdrop from FTX carry on. And these are just skeletons from our past that are part of our history, and they should be remembered because we've learned a lot from these happening. If crypto had just carried on regardless and we never had any of these things happen, and we had them when we were worth 10, 20, 30 trillion dollars, an FTX crash could undermine the entire market. The Bitcoin errors in the code that existed 6 years ago, 5 years ago, had they propped up today, your Bitcoin could fall back to $50,000. So you need to make mistakes early on. It's when you're a baby and you keep falling over and banging your knees, or you put your hand on the hob and it's hot and you burn your hand. You make those mistakes when you're a kid, because when you learn to walk, you can make bigger and far more dangerous mistakes. So when we have these FTX collapses, they are terrible news. But the sun always rises. And that's what I always say to you about these things that happen in crypto that bring the price down. They pass. They don't undermine the structural integrity of the market or crypto. But it hurts. Of course it hurts. Now FTX is distributing this $10.3 million. It's peanuts. I think they ended up, was it $8 billion they had in total? It was a recent unstaking of 188,000 SOL worth 31 million, confirmed by Embassy. These tokens are the latest in a long chain of sales and reallocations by the bankruptcy state, which has been steadily offloading SOL since November. Again, they've got rid of 1 billion worth, so 10 million is absolutely peanuts. Most of these tokens were sold through exchanges, Binance and Coinbase, and believe you me, Exchanges and OTC desks, they are a curse and a blessing. When you see these types of sells, they don't really affect the price too much because they're sold over the counter. They're sold at a set rate. So somebody will go out and buy that Solana at $130 and it won't affect the price on chain. So it's a good thing that OTC desks appear, but it's a bad thing as well. You know, if Saylor wants to go out and buy $1 billion of Bitcoin, it goes via an OTC desk. It doesn't go via the market. And that, of course, doesn't push the price up. I mean, I'm not saying Saylor doesn't buy it off the market. I'm giving you an example. So these things happen. The ghosts of our past are things that we will tell our kids about. And, you know, I'm sure in 15, 14 years' time, Sam Bankman-Fried will be released. People will have no idea who he is, but you will know who he was. And you'll remember what happened. And you will remember what a bad actor he was. And he was a bad actor. Now, talking of bad actors, we have a good actor coming up now. And again, I've got to be very careful what I talk about with this because it is a competitor's exchange. But this that's being launched technically isn't, because it's a well, it's a competitor, but it's a DEX. And that is BuyReal. The BuyReal DEX is going to be launched on Solana this month. Now, again, what do I expect from this? I expect to be lots and lots of news about a BuyReal token. If you trade through BuyReal, you're going to get airdrops, you're going to get whitelisted for things. All of those things will happen, and all of the excitement will be around BuyReal. But what really matters is, what effect is this going to have on Orca and Raydium? This isn't going to dramatically damage Jupiter, remember, because Jupiter is an aggregator. So it will aggregate BuyReal into its prices that it gives you. So you should always use Jupiter, in my opinion anyway. So Bybit announced that BuyReal will launch on Solana this month, combining SEX liquidity and DeFi transparency. Expected impact on the Solana DeFi and liquidity. It's led by Ben Zhu, and it's launching its first on-chain DEX, BuyReal on Solana, by the month's end. Now remember, we talked about bad actors a minute ago. Ben Zhu, as far as I'm aware, is the CEO of Bybit. Now, when they had their, was it a $1.4 billion hack, first thing he did was get on camera and talk to people. First thing he did was get on Twitter and talk to people. That's how a CEO should act. Now, you might all hate JP Mullen at Mantra. You might all call it a rug pull, or their team have run off with the money, whatever else it might be. And he had some car crash interviews, especially with CoffeeZilla. But he fessed up. He faced up to all that criticism, and he never backed down, and he never went away. And neither did the CEO of Bybit. And for me, when it's something like this, which I don't personally hold him responsible for, don't hold JP Mullen responsible for, you've got to take your hat off to them. There's no point in criticizing people for some of these hacks, because they are seriously intelligent hacks. And maybe the security officers need firing, by all means, but they face up to all the criticism. They stand there and they handle the disaster management absolutely perfectly. Now, this launch on Solana is a very logical thing to do. We've seen, I think, CZ talked about doing this as well. He talked about opening up the Binance liquidity to DEXs, or a DEX, and I can't remember the exact details about it. So this isn't new by any way means. Maybe they got inspiration from CZ, who knows? But it's going to go to Solana, which is the most logical place for them to go. As of June, Solana is valued at 146, totally irrelevant. The research team, and totally irrelevant. I mean, I think we just keep an eye on this, and when it is launched, we'll bring it up and we'll show you, and we'll tell you what is what, and we'll tell you what's going on. Right then, who do we have on here? Do I see Say doing much this bull run? Absolutely not. The thing is, there's a couple of chains that, in my opinion, were token farming chains, and Celestia was one and Say was the other. I made a video about Say I made what I thought was a really good video about Sei. And the one thing that you'll say about Sei is it's got the UI of Solana. It's really, really pretty. But they tried to launch with lots and lots of airdrops of lots of different projects and tokens, like Celestia did. And Celestia was trading at $20. Now, I know we've had a market correction. I get all of that. But Celestia is back down to $4. And that coincided with the end of the airdrop farming on Celestia. And Sei gave me the same vibes. Now, what can happen is the same thing that's happened to Phantom. And that is that you see a change in direction, a change in ownership, a change in guidance. And Andrew Cronje, I hold up as the best example of how to save a dead chain, because Phantom was finished. And he came in, he changed the name, he changed the dynamics. If you're a DApp on Sonic, you get a share of the fees generated by your DApp. Brilliant concept. Helps the community grow, helps the teams grow. I've seen nothing from Sei so far in any bit of news in months. There's no announcement. So for me, I would want to see a roadmap from Sei, a partnership with Circle or Tether. I'd want to see something to do with real world assets or NFTs or DPINs. Ask yourself a question. What does, if you had one sentence to describe Solana, one sentence to describe Ethereum, and one sentence to describe Sei, what would you say Sei's market audience is? I could tell you right now, TradFi is going to Ethereum. That's going to be the real world asset, the exchange, the synthesized tokens is going to be on Ethereum. And I would say Solana is retail. So I can explain both of them very simply. I can't explain Sei or C. It can be the fastest chain in the world. You can't, it's one of those things you can't sit there and say, oh, you know, Sei does 10 million transactions a second. On what? What does it transact? How does it transact? Cronos is going through this same question at the minute. What is the Cronos chain? What does it do? What purpose does it fulfill? I can tell you what BNB can fulfill. I can tell you what Cardano is trying to do. I can tell you what Solana is trying to do. And funnily enough, they're all the top chains. You go down to rank 50, rank 60, rank 70, and you look for some of those layer 2s. Optimism has a purpose. Everything is built on the OP stack. If you want your own real world asset chain, you use the OP stack. I get that one, fine. Arbitrum is going DeFi. I get that one, fine. But a lot of these things just exist and then base their entire existence on how fast they are. Well, I don't care. If you went to a restaurant that could serve you in 2 minutes, but the menu had 3 things on it, and one was lettuce, and one was cucumber, and one was tomato, would you go to that restaurant? No, you wouldn't. Yeah, but it serves you in 60 seconds. It doesn't serve me anything in 60 seconds. I could go to Solana and have fish and chips in 2 minutes. I could go to Ethereum and have sushi in 15 minutes. But I go to Sei, what do I get on Sei? They need the next step up. The same way Sui built and built and built and then came out with a lot of very, very good DeFi apps. You know, we covered Deep on here. Brilliant. It's like a liquidity provider for all of their different dexes. They're building a really decent ecosystem. They just need eyes on them. And that's why they've gone out and they've got the likes of Raoul Pal, they've got Cassie and people like that promoting them. And I think they're doing a damn good job over there. A damn good job. Right then, let us move on. Have we gone past 12 o'clock yet? Am I still 12:04 already? I'm looking. Do you think Sei? Okay, so I've answered all the questions. If you've got any questions in chat, ask me. It's a bank holiday. We're not doing anything else after this. And if we, maybe I'll make a quick video on something. Right then, Circle CEO said stablecoins are nearing their iPhone moment. Again, a lot of you are too young to remember life without the internet. I was there before the internet. I was also there before the iPhone. And it creeps up on you. The internet creeps up on you, and iPhones creep up on you. And I think stablecoins creep up on you. And the reason they creep up on you is because in the real world, outside of crypto, people will not understand and probably won't even be shown that it's USDC or USDT. So if Barclays Bank tomorrow started saying, oh, you can pay people in 1 minute using this token, it's going to cost you 10p. Excuse me. You'd pay it, and you might pay it in dollars, and it's automatic, and there's no credit card fee, and you pay it because it's quick, and you're not going to know it's Circle, you're not going to know it's Tether, but your bank will be making probably as much money on that transaction as it would using Swift, if not more. So I would say they're not near the iPhone moment, because iPhone is something you hold in your hand and you find really, really useful. I don't think stable coins are really, really useful. I just think they're a replication of what you already have. Somebody's app on their hand, their Revolut app or their Binance app, when they see $1,000, they see $1,000. They don't see $1,000 of Circle, $1,000 of Tether. They don't care. So that's why I don't think it's an iPhone moment. I think it's more of a sliced loaf moment. I think people have always been buying loaves of bread, and then one day somebody decided to make a machine that can cut that loaf of bread into slices, and then you started buying sliced bread. And you said to your wife the other day, isn't it really handy we can buy sliced bread now? Yeah, it is, yeah. So I would say it's near its sliced bread moment, which again isn't sexy, I understand, but it's certainly not an iPhone moment. And I'm not even going to talk about it too much. I think it's adoption. And I think, you know, to be fair, when they started talking about how stable coins were going to be the big thing under the Trump administration, at first I didn't really get it. This was back in January. I didn't really understand it. I didn't really understand it because I didn't understand the plans that everybody had for stablecoins. Because back then, we had Circle, Tether, and then we had PayPal. And we had some musings about other stablecoins, and then we had some yield-bearing stablecoins as well, but it wasn't really out there. Then the Stablecoin Act, January this year, and then I got it. I was like, right, okay. Everybody wants stablecoins. The American government wants stablecoins because they're backed by US treasuries. I think Tether holds more treasuries in the American finance system than Germany does. So they're really big business for America. It helps prop up their economy and everything. So now I get it. But back then I didn't. Right, Ray Dalio slams meme stock hype, warms of risks. There he is. Very happy man. I do follow him on X. He's a very, very bright man. He's a billionaire hedge fund founder, believes investors are repeating a common mistake following hype over logic. I absolutely agree with this. And if you've listened to me for more than 2 or 3 streams, I will have mentioned at some point you should look at projects that make money. And that is all I want you to do. If you never watch me again, always ask yourself a question about a project that you're going to buy tokens in. How does it make money? If it doesn't make money, where does it get the money from to keep going? And if the answer is you, then you are the revenue stream. Now, if you're happy with that because it's a service that they provide, like Netflix, fine, happy days. If it's an NFT project that keeps going because you become part of the gang, fine. If it's a serious project, you know, a layer 1 or a layer 2 or a DEX or whatever, how does it make its money? Does it have a UI page, for example? So if you go and look at if you look at WolfSwap, they've got a breakdown on there. They've got a buyback mechanism. You can go to DeFi Llama, you can see their revenue, you can kind of roughly guess how much money they're making every month. Fine, you invest in Moon tokens. And remember what I say, a token's price and a project's value are not necessarily aligned. You have undervalued and overvalued projects. Ondo is overvalued. Syrup is undervalued, but Syrup is getting to the point where it's not that undervalued. We talked about it at 12, 13, 14 cents. It's now at what, 54 cents. when it gets towards $1 and $2, syrup, in my opinion, is not that undervalued based on its revenue, based on everything else. Now, of course, if it triples its TVL, then you have to kind of double the token price underneath. Ondo's token price is hype, and it's hype because of BlackRock. But they only have to make a few changes on Ondo, introduce staking, for example, and then suddenly Ondo is no longer undervalued, especially if they introduce staking and a buyback and burn mechanism. So he is completely right in what he is saying. Meme stocks, not a good thing. Price, not popularity, should guide decisions. These are the kinds of people you need to listen to. Not necessarily me, but these people are the ones that you should listen to. Markets tend to punish this behavior. When the crowd piles into trades expecting quick profits, volatility increases and losses follow. Again, I'm not going to say any more about that because I think we're going to run out of time, and I don't really want to run out of time today because I know some of you are having a bank holiday out there. So we'll go over here and I will say, my God, it's 10 past 12. 10 past 12. Right then, let me just very quickly finish the... Give me 1 minute. I just need to turn off the thing in the background, and then I won't be stuttering on the screen as much. There we go. Okay. I should now be nice and wavy. Okay, so first of all, it's a bank holiday for a lot of people out there. Thank you for spending an hour with me. I also want to thank you all for spending your time with me. It's an hour, Monday. I think this week we're doing Monday, Tuesday, Friday, maybe Tuesday. I might just start doing Wednesdays as well. When we've got a quiz night on, I don't tend to do 5 days. But I will probably come back tomorrow because it's Tuesday. Probably do Wednesday as well. And then Wednesday night, we have the Wolf Swap quiz. Now, Ben is new in chat, so Ben doesn't know anything about this. This is an interactive quiz. You come along and you basically play on YouTube. So you type in chat, join, and then we give you multiple choice questions, and you press 1, 2, or 3, and you win. That easy. Well, you don't win. You might come second or third behind Mary and Tariq, but that's a different story. You'll find that out along the way. Thank you, Simon, for coming. Always great to see you in chat. Thank you to everybody that's in here. I'll be back tomorrow, 11 o'clock, same time, same place. Also, we have an OG Telegram group, and we have a normal Telegram group. So if you're an OG or if you're just wanting to join our Telegram group and ask questions, I'll find a way to leave the link in chat. And then people, because I don't promote the Telegram group at all, and it's literally like a graveyard in there. There's a few people chatting, Danny chats and Tariq and whatever, but there's very few people chatting in there. So I'm going to try and get that going a bit in the next few weeks. Thank you, Manjeet. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Ben, KB and everybody in chat. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great bank holiday. Take care. Goodbye.